Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Coach Muck and Dusty Staub, and today we're going to talk about setting conscious intent. Dusty, thank you. I'm just soaking this in. We just came out of cutting this vision, setting conscious intent, and I just want to soak it in. I want to lay in it.
Mm.
Wake up, Rick.
Well, no, I can't. I know this is why you have partners, right?
You know,
Be on track.
one thing that, and maybe other people can relate to this. We talk about this all the time, and we all read books, and we know the importance of setting intention and self-talk and all that. But um, doing the video, just the way you put it out in a very simplistic form, so you realize the importance of it. It resonated a lot with me, even more than just reading a book, because sometimes I have to read a book several times for it to sink in.
Yeah.
And so I did appreciate that, and then it helped me realize just some of the way I think, because I have some of those limiting beliefs from my childhood, I guess. Not to blame anybody, but it's just sometimes you end up with those. So yeah, I did appreciate recognizing the self-talk and the importance of what you say. I loved your quote. For everybody who wants to write this down, we'll post it. How we talk to others is powerful, and even more importantly is how we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's something I probably should just post up on my mirror or my wall.
Well, we live in a society where there's been so many messages delivered about you have to do certain things to be valuable. You have to do certain things to be worthwhile, as opposed to being intrinsically worthwhile, intrinsically valuable. Imagine you have a little baby, and you look at that baby and you go, well, it can only cry, smile, poop, and eat. Not worth anything. You look at a baby and people will start, because they're dealing with pure essence, they begin to open their hearts, they begin to engage. Babies are intrinsically worthwhile. When did we stop being worthwhile? When did we stop being intrinsically lovable? When did we stop being whole and complete? We didn't. But beliefs we had either from parenting or school or from society or being bullied or all kinds of stuff has led to people putting their okayness, their sense of personal value, their sense of being lovable on the line and conditional. And when love is conditional, it's not love. When value is conditional that way, it's not real value. So we have a problem in our society, and I think being able to realize the power of words, especially the words we direct at ourselves, it becomes part of breaking the spell of disillusionment and the spell of self-hate and the spell of self-limitation.
Yeah. One thing I learned probably later than I should have, because I had kids, but dealing with kids, because as an adult, we're trying to take away some of the layers that we had from our childhood. And people don't realize, I think, the importance of what they say to their kids when they're very, very young. And even though your intentions might be totally well-meaning, you can't think about, well, I'm going to say this because this is what was said to me when I was a kid, or I'm only looking out for their well-being, so I'm justified in saying this. You really have to think about, how is that child interpreting what you say, and modify your instinct to say something and make sure it's going to send the right message to them. I use the example, like with my kids, when they may have thought that I was trying to control them, right? And I said, well, maybe, but there's also a time where, we tell a child, don't cross the road. And the child may in their mind go, man, I'm being controlled. I can't do anything right. When the reality is, I'm just trying to help them from getting hit from a car. Yeah. And so, one, I should probably look at how I'm saying that, or explain why I'm saying that. But two, then at some point, now that child is going to have to unwind that and think about, okay, I felt like my dad was controlling me, but no, really, he was just helping me be safe. And so it's a two-way street.
Yeah, my dad never wanted to explain why anything, because to explain why meant he wasn't in control. And just because he was the authority, you were supposed to do it. Well, of
Yeah.
course, he had 26 years in the military, but that's the way he was brought up also in his family of origin. And what I would say is that taking the time to explain why, I love you, I want you to be safe, and this can be a danger to you. So I
Yes.
want you to be mindful. Here's the rules. Here's how to navigate. Because we as adults see all the dangers. We see
Hmm.
all the possibilities. And we start trying to put cushions and protective barriers around our kids. And that can be a real disservice.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, how do I help protect them? How do I help them orient in this world in a way that doesn't create unnecessary limitations or a knee-jerk rebellion against authority? Because I think explaining the why, and explaining the why to your employees, if you have employees, explaining the why behind a decision is really smart. And if people know the why behind a vision, behind a goal, behind a rule, behind a regulation, behind a guideline, behind a directive you're giving, or a request, if they understand the why, that really helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I refused to say to my kids was, do it because I told you, because I'm telling you
Yeah,
so. And
yeah,
and so I'm glad I never did that, because I'd have to take my foot out of my mouth. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Well, how important is setting conscious intent in a corporate setting or in a healthcare organization or where you have a significant influence? How does that resonate, or, you know, what does that look like? A fully holistic, functional, uh, God, environment. How do you how do you get to that place today? Who are the Oh gosh, Rick, what was the question? Please forgive me, Dusty. I Where do you start in corporate America? Because this has been your expertise, and you've had such an incredible range of people that you've worked with, from Fortune 50 companies, billionaires, to, you know, grandma, grandpa. I mean, literally, as a therapist, even as a family, your range. You've been doing this for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about in PonoQuest is being the experience that, being what it is we want to experience, being that, Pono, being in that place of everything's whole, everything's balanced. Where do we go to create and affect that conscious intent? How do we aim that to make the greatest change in the world?
It's a great question, and the answering of that could take us hours. So let me give you a few guidelines. I think the answer is that recognizing the innate power we have to manifest reality through envisioning something and then communicating that to others who join us in going after it is really what great leadership is about. Proverbs says, without a vision, the people perish. Well, what a vision does is it gives us that sense of future pull. It gives us the hope of a better tomorrow. It gives us the hope that we're going to get through this stuff today to something better for our family, or for ourselves, or for our organization, or for our society, or our neighborhood, or our nation, or the world. And that sense of future pull, that sense of hope, that sense of things that can inspire us to move through the difficulties now with a little more grace. It's not always going to be this bad. It's not always going to be this difficult. I'm not going to always be climbing the mountain. Sometimes I'll be on top of the mountain, looking down on the world. The great English poet Milton, who wrote Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained, said, true character, true leadership is not found when you're on top of the mountain. True character, true leadership is found when you're deep in the valley. You can no longer see the peaks, and there's the mud, and there's the clouds and the mist, and you're slogging through the rain. But you remember and believe there is a mountaintop. You remember and believe there is a clear view. You remember and believe it can be better. So part of it is, don't lie about where you are, what the current reality is, and yet also have the courage to dream and put a dream out there. That's true for an organization. It's true for an entrepreneur. It's true for a family. It's true for a person's career. And I've found, it's funny thing is, a lot of people have lost the courage to dream. Certainly the courage to express it or put it out there because they're afraid they might not achieve it. They might fail because of negative beliefs or negative messages they've received from people in their lives or from society. And so whether it be institutionalized racism that we have to overcome, whether it be negative beliefs about my worth or lack of worth, whether it be judging myself because I have a degree or don't have a degree, or I have a certain amount of money, or I don't have any money, all of those things are things that need to be addressed. And they are barriers to the full expression of the human spirit and to the full expression of our creative inner genius. We have that creative inner genius, as we talked about in the Journey to Power, that is there. And when we can access that by listening to our heart and letting our heart begin to inform us and guide us, then our enterprises do better, our families do better, our careers do better, our lives do better, our society does better. And it's really starting to listen to the heart rather than the ego or letting the intellect try to lead the way, because it just gets lost when it doesn't have that core orientation of purpose and what true values really are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes. You want to
I
say
got,
something, Steve? Yeah.
oh, I do. But if you wanted to finish a thought or something off of that.
No, please. Thank
Okay.
you.
So back to the power of intention, and I'm going to get a little esoteric maybe for some people, because when it comes to this energy that we have that we don't see, and some people can see it. I've known people that said they can see auras and so forth, but we have this other ability to manipulate energy in a sense. And the visual that I have, because again, I don't know that it exists, but sometimes it's good to just believe it does, and if it works for you, great. But intention seems to be that tool that is used to actually manipulate that energy. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, you could call it a God-given ability. You could call it a divine birthright. You could call it just an innate part of being a human being. Is we have the capacity to manifest and create things that don't currently exist. If you look around an office building, you look around your home, everything you see was once just an idea or a concept in somebody's head. So one of the powers of intent is realizing that when I get really clear and I focus on something and can articulate what I want, and I round up my energy to go after it, and keep in mind to enjoy the journey as I go, then amazing things start to happen. We begin to create things. I never thought I could create a company. I created a company 30 years ago. I never thought people would pay to come to me to help them or counsel them. And yet I ran a private practice for 5 years where people did come and paid out of their pocket to do work with me. I never thought I could juggle because I was considered myself a klutz. And I got tired of that belief. And now I teach people how to juggle, and I use juggling to teach leadership concepts and learning concepts. So it's being willing to consistently violate the old limiting beliefs, the old self-limiting messages we have that we tell ourselves. And it's breaking that spell of personal limitation and realizing that if I can think it, if I can clarify it and put it out there, I can manifest that intent. Napoleon Hill said, what the mind of man can conceive can be achieved. So what can you conceive of? What are you willing to achieve? That's part of it.
Yeah, and I think I like to get into the healing, energy healing, and so forth. And again, it can be looked at different ways. And the key ingredient of the ones that are the healers is the intention. So whether they're using energy or whether they have the intention and they're convincing the other person that this is what's going to occur and it happens, I don't know the answer to that. But what is consistent is that intention ingredient.
Yeah. And what I would say to that is, you made me think of something that I did as a therapist, is people will say you can't change the past. And the truth is you can't change what happened in the past. However, if you change the way you hold the past, if you change the way you interpret the past, if you change the way you hold yourself regarding the past, you change the past. So if something terrible happened to you in the past, and this could be a case of sexual abuse, the victim of sexual abuse as a child, even as a teenager, they often blame themselves. They walk around with a sense of guilt and shame, and they can either deal with the world like this, angry at the world, or like this, protecting themselves, or shutting themselves off. So either shutting myself off, or I'm weak and I let other people take advantage of me, or I'm angry at the world, I'm angry at life. All three responses are off the path of being able to enjoy and love your life. And so, as a therapist, same thing as a coach, is getting somebody to understand what a false belief was. Something happened that did happen that is not something we'd ever want to have happen to a child or a teenager or a person. And yet, how they hold themselves, how they hold what happened, if they can hold it more like this, this is what I learned. This is how I can protect myself. This is how I can be more loving and more open to life. I'm not going to be defined by that. It changes the past. And so being able to go back in memory to be there for that little boy or little girl when there wasn't a guardian adult, and to recast the loving adult taking care of that child in that moment and defending that child, and letting that child know that they are okay, is a way of moving from this or this or this to this. It's like if I say to you, Steve, I want some water. Pour some water in my hand. I can't. I need more water. Or I say, pour some water in my hand. A fist can't hold water. A locked out hand, it's got to be cupped. And if I cup both of them together, I can hold the water. So if I want to receive love, I've got to be able to hold myself. I've got to be able to hold my past in a more compassionate and loving and wiser way. And when I do that, I change the past. It changes my present, which changes my future. And Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, the quantum physicist, talks about how the future reaches back to the past to change the past so that you experience the present in a new way. That's quantum physics from a wild quantum physicist. I don't know if people can appreciate that, but we can change the future by changing our present. We change our present by changing our past by the way we hold what happened to us. Is that making sense,
Oh,
guys?
totally. It's totally beautiful. We won't put on here that Dusty talks about time travel, but
Well, there's no end in sight. Like we completed the journey to personal power, we're on the journey to personal power and the journey to vision, and what a delight. Like when I said when we first came on, I just wanted to sink into that because it's nourishing my soul,
Mm,
and that. Man, you couldn't ask for anything more than that. I mean, every day you're fed in feeding in it's an honor. It really truly is an honor to be able to work with you and to be able to
mm,
point to you as the trunk. I it's Pono.
mm,
yeah. So I would just say if anybody wants to jump on these journeys with us, we're done with the journey to personal power. So it's up and ready to go. People can jump in on it anytime, uh, take the course, but while they're taking the course, they get to interact with us and Dusty
Oh yeah.
on a weekly basis, and that is as valuable as the course sometimes because you can make it a little bit more personal. It's not going to be a therapy session, but you're going to get it a little bit more targeted. So take advantage of that. And then we're what halfway done with the Journey Division now,
Yep.
yep.
and that will be up and running. So we'll put the links in the video. Um, Once we get the video posted, we'll go back and edit it and put the links in there so people can access that. Um, any final thoughts, Dusty, for regarding the power of intention?
Yeah, I'd say with the power of intention is just begin to entertain the idea that your capacity to conceive something and then articulate it gives you the power to manifest it and make it a reality. Realize that you are a co-creator of your life. You're not just a character in a book somebody else wrote at the whim of the writer. You're a co-creator and a co-writer of your life, and that you get to create it in a new way. Write a new chapter, write a new ending, write a new beginning by how you hold what happened in the past. And when we begin to realize we are co-creators, co-authors of our lives, we then begin to manifest greater power, greater fulfillment, and greater joy.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you coming on with us and sharing this with the viewers.
It's been
All
a
right.
pleasure. I love working with you guys from the heart. So thank you very much.
All right.
Yes.
Well, Thomas sends his alohas, and we will end the live stream. And thank you again. We'll see you all on the inside. Aloha.